Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Tonsen Arttoys 03A Adolescent Malevolence figure, aka not Kid BUU. And I don't own this figure, it's my brother's. I borrowed it to review it, and so this is going to be a little bit of an interesting review because it's a third-party Dragon Ball figure. I'm sure a lot of you know what this is if you're watching this review, but it's not a bootleg, it's not a copy of an existing figure. It's its own thing, and there's some questionable design choices for sure, but there's some good stuff too, so maybe it's a good alternative if you're looking for a Kid BUU figure that Bandai has not produced. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. Alright, before we get into the figure, I do want to show you my package. It's a fine package. It's somewhat similar to the traditional Bandai Dragon Ball packaging, so that's okay. Having the figure completely behind the cardboard, or at least practically speaking completely hidden, is not a great design, but that's how they've done it. So if you're trying to keep him in the box, this is probably not the one for you. There's some photos. Yeah, they tried to keep it somewhat similar to the way the Bandai does theirs. So it's a fine package other than the figure is completely hidden. Okay, so one of the reasons I mentioned this is my brother's is that I don't know what this cost. And I looked it up and I don't know where you buy these sorts of things. I guess maybe 5K Toys, though I don't know them at all. I've heard a lot of people talk about them. And then of course AliExpress, or AliExpress, whatever. And the prices are all over the place where I'm looking. So it's like $15 up to $100. I don't know. I'm going to assume it costs like $50 or $60. That seems like a reasonable price for something like this. That's my guess. You guys can weigh in. Like I said, I don't know where he bought it, and I don't know where you guys go for this sort of thing because I don't collect this sort of thing traditionally. Every once in a while I'll get something like this. But anyway, okay, so let's get into it. This guy stands just about, let's say, 4 3/4 to like right here, not counting the top of his little head nubbin thing. And that's going to make him just about, we'll call it 12 centimeters. Here he is up against Gherkin. You know, somebody commented the other day, they were so upset. They were a very angry commenter. Saying, I'm so tired of you changing the names of characters. First it was Naruto, now you call Goku Gherkin. I've been calling Goku Gherkin for a long time because most of the Dragon Ball characters are named after food, and a gherkin is a type of pickle, and so it's just, it's a play on that. But yeah, it's not his name, to be clear. I'm aware his name isn't Gherkin. And if that bothers you a whole lot, well, that's probably not the most severe of your issues. So, let's go ahead and do this. Question of the day, third party or no third party for things like this? What do you guys think? I'm definitely not a fan of the people who just make bootlegs as much. That is way more questionable in terms of ethics than it is people who make their own entire figures like this one here. So I'm more okay with this sort of thing for sure, and I'm definitely more inclined to buy this sort of thing than a repaint of a bootleg. Or I mean, you know what I mean, it's not really a repaint, but it is a bootleg. Okay, so aesthetically speaking, at first glance this looks like a Bandai figure for the most part, but what about second glance? Well, second glance probably pretty good too. It looks pretty solid. It's not bad. It has a nice matte finish overall. I like that. The paint job is clean. You can see his little belt is very nicely done. Same thing for his gauntlets. Pretty clean. His little holes, whatever those are for. I mean, technically, I don't know what they're for because he's an alien cartoon character made out of bubblegum. Alien? He's not really an alien, is he? Anyway, he's got holes that steam comes out of. But he's clean. He looks good. It's nicely done, for sure. It's mostly a really clean looking figure. There's not a lot of paint. There's almost no paint other than those detail things, so there's no shading. And then the finish quality is not the best. You'll see in a few places there are like mold marks, or like the one head, the head that I would probably use the most, has a big chunk missing right there on the forehead. So there's definitely stuff like that. As you're swapping parts, you'll see tabs for the injection marks and things like that. So it's not as clean as an official figure. But in terms of like, is it going to look good on a display? Yeah, it's going to match perfectly well. Half the Bandai figures don't have any paint, so this is perfectly acceptable. The color matching for the plastics is fine, so yeah, it's definitely clean. The sculpt is good for the most part. We'll get into the articulation problems in a little bit in terms of the sculpt, but generally speaking, this guy would be very comfortable sitting on an official Dragon Ball SH Figure Arts display. he is going to be just fine to blend in. So that's pretty good. So I'll give the aesthetic on this guy I'm going to go 8. I would go 9, but some of the issues with the articulation problems really do bug me as far as the aesthetic goes. But yeah, it's solid for sure. Now, as far as accessories go, they went nuts. He's got a whole bunch of heads, lots and lots of heads with all kinds of different expressions, and that's pretty darn good. They have very good finish overall, except for that one with the chunk taken out, so still pretty darn cool. For hands, you get a decent spread of hands, everything you're going to need probably. I like that. You do get the alternate torso to make him look like a genie sort of thing, so there's that. Though that doesn't really, like, he can't, it doesn't stand, it doesn't support himself at all. So I guess you have to use a display stand to hold him up. I don't know, I don't really get that. I guess, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, and then lastly you get the effect part, which is not the best thing we've ever seen. Like I said, that mold quality, you're gonna see some flashing and stuff in some places, but it's still pretty darn good, and the shading on it is nice. And it has a peg hole for a hand with a peg in it. So yeah, that's good. That's a better spread of accessories than we get for most Bandai releases. Some have that kind of stuff, but most don't, so 9.5 out of 10. It's really, really good. Execution could be a little bit cleaner, of course, but that's probably to be expected with something like this, and the assortment is still really nice. Now, as far as articulation goes, I wanted to mention one other thing. This is kind of articulation, but also aesthetic. His neck is sitting on top of his clavicle. You can see that right there. In the photos, it's underneath, and I was able to wedge it underneath, but it doesn't stay. As soon as you move it at all, it pops right back out, so that's probably going to be an issue. It would look way better if they finessed that a little bit more to get the neck underneath the clavicle. That's unfortunate. Okay, so let's talk about the articulation. Double ball peg for the head, but the way they did the peg, oh man, this head is really tight on here. It doesn't have much ball compared to peg. It's almost all the same size. So it's not the best range in the world. You're going to not get a ton, but it's probably going to be enough. Let's find out. Okay. Like, it'll be fine. You're not going to be thrilled with it, and there's really no reason for that limitation. Bigger balls is better. And then the neck does move, but barely. So, yeah, he's probably more limited than he needs to be. But it's not bad. Now for the shoulder, it's a ball peg butterfly joint. It connects down toward the bottom, and it wiggles around some, but not a whole lot. Like, it's better than nothing, I guess, if you don't mind the cuts, which are well enough hidden, I guess. But it's not the fanciest butterfly joint we've ever seen. For the shoulder itself, you get your basic hinge, which actually looks really good when you raise it up. The way they've done it, it works nicely, anatomically speaking, so that's good. And of course, you're going to get your full rotation, so that's pretty standard. Bicep swivel is fine. Double jointed elbow, not the best range. The gauntlet's a problem, but that's just the way that goes. The gauntlet does rotate, and then the hands are on little double ball pegs. Yeah, there's no hinge in there. Yeah, double ball pegs. So yeah, pretty good. Like, that's fine. None of the joints have a problem either. They all are sufficiently stiff, but not too stiff. And I haven't come across anything too loose yet. So let's see. For the torso, this is where he pops off for the alternate body. Single ball peg in there. So let's see. Yeah, it's pretty limited. Like, it's okay. Could be a little stiffer. It's okay. You get some rotation, leaning all the way around, but not a ton. And then down here you get more articulation, but it looks like you would have a lot more than you have. But with all of the joints put together, it works pretty darn well. So I think I'll take it. That is fine. He's not very gappy or anything like that other than up here. It gets a little bit weird. But yeah, I think with all of these put together, it works well enough. It's not the most incredible thing, but it's definitely fine. Now, so far his articulation's been solid other than that weird neck situation, but we have a problem. The hips, from here to here, it's janky as heck. It's not good. It looks okay, like that. That looks fine, but when you go to pose it, it gets weird. He gets a big dangly bit right there, and these flaps, if you want to call them, they definitely get in the way of the posability. So if you bring him forward, you can bring his legs out to the side, which I guess is fine. I mean, that's totally valid. That's all right, but you still get the big dangler, so you want to be careful with that for posability. Bringing the legs forward, again, you have to move these flaps out of the way, but he does get his legs forward. Going back, you get a little bit of range. Thigh swivel is fine. The problem with these flaps is they're just obscenely large. They stick out quite far, and they are quite big. So I think a little bit of finesse, a little bit of refinement on there would have gone a long way. And I think that's true for the knees also. As you can see, the knees are not even very well held together. You get some gapping in the front. They separate, and they don't have good range. So, like, almost none. Very, very little range, and they're still quite ugly. Can I force it? It looks like it should go farther, but if I try to tuck that in and bring it farther around, does it go? It does go. Okay, so you can get it to 90. So what you have to do, though, is just really make sure you tuck all the pieces in so that you can get it to go. So that's, I mean, it's not good. It's better than not being able to do it. But you're still really gappy and ugly. So be aware, his legs are not very good. You do get a boot swivel at the top of the boot, so that's nice. And then the ankles appear to have ball hinges in there, but you get very, very little range. The ankle rocker gives you some functionality, but going forward and back, you get some back, but the forward, not really doing. And then the toe hinge is nice, but tiny, tiny, tiny toe hinge. So, yeah, he's not the best articulated thing from the waist down. He's okay. And from the waist up, he's pretty good. So I'll give his articulation a 7. It's not special at all, but it will get the job done. It is okay. And so now it's time for the final verdict. Is this a good addition to your Dragon Ball collection if you don't want to wait for them to make an official one? Sure. It's fine. I wouldn't pay too much for it, especially since Bandai will eventually make one, and the odds of it being very bad are slim. They've done a pretty good job with the BUUs. So I don't know. I think it's fine. I don't think I'm convinced that I want to buy it. It's just not refined enough, and that I'll just wait. If they never make one, make an official one, I'll buy this someday. It'll be fine for that if they never make one. I just don't think that's the case. So let me know what you guys think. Where do you stand on that sort of situation? Is it worth having in the meantime? Is it worth having at all? Or would you just never get it? Like, what do you think? For me, I'm not getting it unless they never make an official one and somehow we know that that's happening. Then I'll pick it up because it's fine and I want to have the character. But that's really where I'm at on that. So I'll give it a final rating of, I'm going to say 8. The accessories sell it. The overall look is good. You know, definitely some problems, but it's fine. So yeah, I'm going to go 8. Let me know what you guys think about that too, and we'll talk in the comment section below. But that's it for me. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos just about every single day, and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.